There is nothing quite like when the Dungeon Master puts a new map out on the table. Your party successfully journeyed to the next town or city without being ambushed by gnolls, and now it's time to explore this new location. If you've been wanting to try drawing your own RPG fantasy maps, you've got to check out Fantasy Mapmaker by Jared Blando. Let's check out the book and my before and after map. A few months ago, I posted a video about some great Dungeons & Dragons books that are not from Wizards of the Coasts. You can check that video out right up here. One of those books was the Fantasy Mapmaker by Jared Blando, and a lot of viewers asked for a more in-depth look specifically at that book. That's the topic of today's video, and I also took the time to use some of these techniques to draw a before and after map to show you, so make sure you stick around to watch that later in the video. Now, I love the look of amazing fantasy RPG maps, but I never took the time to actually try drawing one myself. Have you? Now, this is a great book to learn some basic techniques for fantasy map making. First of all, there's 125 pages in here, and they're all full color. The book is divided into 9 different chapters: cities and settlements, basic settlements, the surrounding countryside, advanced settlements, fortifications, borders, coats of arms, illustrative techniques, and putting it all together. Now, in the very beginning, Jared actually has a full page about the basic supplies you might need to try drawing maps, and a whole page of advanced supplies if you've moved past basic and want to get into some other techniques. There's a lot of images in this book of Jared's completed maps that are just gorgeous. I'm hoping with enough practice one day I can make maps just like this too. The author starts out with a page each about hamlets, towns, cities, and castles, and just about the basic types of buildings that you would find in those areas. From here, he moves on to get your drawing right away. You're going to sketch in the basic lines for your settlement, add some of the basic buildings, and then the surrounding forests. Now, all the techniques in this book are for making a bird's eye view map, which is looking top down. So you're going to be seeing all the rooftops of all the buildings, and it's like looking at trees and other features in your town or city from the top down. So first he goes into how to draw maybe the well that's in the center of your town, and then goes into buildings like inns, farmhouses, and cottages, and what those might look like from above. This is broken down into really easy steps, with starting out with the basic shapes, adding the roof lines, and then some final details. There's even some examples down the bottom of different shaped houses and some examples of what some types of buildings look like once they're all colored in. So to quickly run through some of the types of buildings that the book covers: inns, farmhouses, cottages, blacksmiths and markets, temples and cemeteries. Then he even goes into fences and walls, dirt roads and paved roads, fields, pastures, and orchards. And again, it's all the same steps: basic shapes, add in some details, and then some more final details to really make it pop. I found these techniques so easy. When I looked at the finished product, it was a little intimidating. But when I just looked at step 1, I was like, oh, okay, I can draw those basic shapes. I'm no artist, but I can do that. Then I went on to add in some of the details and then some extra final details. And next thing I know, I was kind of like, wow, did I actually draw that? Continuing on, he goes into trees and forests, streams and rivers, fords and bridges, and then he gets into how to draw some of the features of the surrounding countryside that might be outside of the town or city. It's safe to assume that not every single part of your map might be all on the same elevation, so he's got instructions on how to draw small hills and mountains to give some variation to the land, and even things like mines and quarries, villas and vineyards, watermills, windmills, and then he gets into advanced settlements and structures like a big city. Now we're getting into things like different roof styles, if your roof has a tower or a dome on it, and even how to draw things like fountains and monuments, also from a bird's eye view. Pretty cool. He goes into guild halls and libraries, grand temples, cloisters, an amphitheater, warehouses, aqueducts, harbors, docks and lighthouses and ships, monoliths, portals, even things like sacred groves, and my personal favorite, airship platforms. Okay, once you've moved on to fortifications, the author gives you some great examples on ways to protect your settlement. Maybe you're drawing a wooden palisade, a stone wall, towers, or a keep. I love this part too. He's even got types of artillery from a bird's eye view. A trebuchet, a catapult, a cannon. These are great things to add to the towers or on your city fortifications. Now, once you get past the interior components of your map, to really make your map pop and have your own special style and look complete, there's chapters in here on how to draw borders around the edges of your map in different styles. Different kinds of compasses that you can add to your map so your players always know which way is north. Different ways to add labeling and tags to your maps, and even coats of arms. I love that at the end of this book, Jared even goes into different ways to color your map, whether it's inks, washes, or paints. He covers different typography styles for the labeling of your map, and even how to make your final map really pop between adding base colors, doing some shading, and then some highlights with your coloring techniques. Adventurers, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you go ahead and smash that like button, give us a thumbs up. It really helps support the channel more than you know. And if you're into all things Dungeons & Dragons, tips, tricks, unboxings, and reviews, you're going to want to make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our epic videos. Now we're going to take a look at my before and after map drawing skills here. But first, the epic question of the day. Let me know in the comments down below if you've ever tried hand drawing an RPG map. I also want to know if you've ever tried making one on the computer, either drawing on the computer with a tablet and a pen, or if you used some computer software to make a map. But let me know if you've ever actually made some homemade maps for your D&D campaign. Okay, now let's take a look at my kind of embarrassing before map. I'm going to put a close-up in, but I just kind of sketched out a section of a little town. I put a river running through the middle, added some streets, roads, some scattered buildings, some that were farms with fields, and I just knew how to draw like some basic roof lines from seeing some other maps, so I added a few of those. I've got some trees that kind of look like they also could be clouds because they're just big, puffy, round, bubbly circles. And I find it kind of funny that I also noticed that my watermill, the wheel's not in the water. Not a great map by any stretch of the imagination. It would do its job if I needed to use it. But I decided to spend about an hour to 2 hours or so with Jared's book. I looked up different ways to draw farmhouses and do roofs. I went to his page on how to do the trees and bridges and the different fields and even a church with a cemetery out back. And I came up with a revised map that I spent a few hours on. I did also decide to color mine in, which I'll talk about. And I'll put a close-up of this so you can see it a little better. But this is my after map. It still certainly is no artistic masterpiece, but I think it's a lot better. Actually, let me rotate it around this way so it's kind of comparable to the before. Now, not all the buildings are in the exact same spaces because I drew them shifted a little bit off and then there wasn't enough room to put them all back in. But using some of his methods, I think my trees look a lot more like trees. Now I have the paddle wheel to my mill in the water. The river and the roads look a little more believable. And I think just for a couple hours worth of practice, it looks a lot better. I'm kind of excited to keep trying some more of his techniques and keep practicing. and see if I can improve my map skills even more. Now, I actually did the coloring on this map with Tombow brush pens. These pens have a fine point on one end, but a brush-like tip on the other, and they come in all different colors. Now, they're actually water-based markers, so you can also use watercolor brushes and water with them to do some blending. And honestly, I think I might try that technique next time, of laying down some color with the brush marker and then trying to do the blending and the shading with a watercolor brush. I'm also, though, going to need to go get some watercolor paper. This was just pretty thin 60-pound sketch pad, and at one point trying to erase down here, I put a hole in the paper. That's the before and after for my little section of town, and I got pretty excited about the improvements I was able to make, so I actually tried a few other of his buildings that were in there. I'll insert a close-up of this as well, but I tried one of the castle instructions, I tried the windmill, which I also colored in, and I drew a ship as well, and I think those came out pretty decent. I think I'm going to start practicing some more on like little individual buildings before I try to take a big piece of paper and draw a whole map. But I'm kind of excited to try that too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below of this review of Fantasy Mapmaker, Jared Blando's book, and let me know if you're going to pick it up for yourself. Now, for more reviews, you're going to want to click on one of the videos on the next screen, so be sure you go and do that, and I will see you in that video. Now go have an epic adventure.